Welcome to episode number 13 of the Better Leader podcast. My name is Logan, and if you've been following along, you know that this is the third part of a four-part series I'm doing on how you can win friends and influence people. So we're going to be talking about one of the things that, or the question that you need to be asking yourself as you seek to grow your influence in just a minute. But I want to let you know at the end of this episode, I'm going to be talking about the headwind and tailwind principle in leadership. It's one of my favorite things to talk about, and so I hope you'll stick around for that. So if we're going to gain influence and grow our leadership, one of the questions we have to ask ourselves is, are we leading ourselves well? Now, likely you have a desire to lead yourself well. It's why you're consuming leadership content. You want to grow, but it's an important question that we ask ourselves. Are we leading ourselves well? And now there's three things I want to talk about kind of under the umbrella of this question. Three other questions that we should be asking ourselves in terms of, are we leading ourselves well? The first one is, are you committed to learning? Are you committed to learning? There's power in being a lifelong learner. When I think back to my time in elementary, middle school, high school, college, I don't know that I really had a passion and a fervor for learning, but I think as I've gotten older, and perhaps it's because now I can choose what I get to learn to some degree, I want to be someone who is committed to learning. One of the cool things about whenever I was coaching high school athletics is I would coach with guys who had been doing it for 20 or 30 years. And these guys, they were still committed to growing in their knowledge of the sport. They would go to conferences. They would listen to new ideas in the sport, whatever it may be. And that was really inspiring to see, like, okay, there's still a commitment to learning and growing. I love looking at NFL coaches who are in their 60s or 70s, and they're still committed to growing and to adapting to the new things that are going on. Honestly, I've had a great example of this firsthand because my boss, my leader, Pastor Eddie Lyons, is someone who has been in ministry vocationally for a long time, but he's not satisfied with just the status quo. He wants to learn and wants to continue growing. And I think that as we surround ourselves with people who are committed to that, it inspires us to continue to learn more. And I think that learning just in our field, you may be in a certain type of industry and you want to learn that industry, but I think it goes beyond that of, are you just committed to learning in all aspects of life, learning in your relationships, learning in various avenues of whatever it may be, whether it's working on your house or how to really connect with your kids. Are you committed to learning? Are you committed to learning for the long haul? One of the small changes that I've made in my schedule that has helped me to be more committed to learning is before bed, for the last 20 or 30 minutes of the day, what I've been doing since May or June of this year is I've began listening to audiobooks. The other thing that I've done is I love listening to sports talk radio in the mornings. I still do that. That's something that I get enjoyment out of. Shout out to anyone who listens to the Dan Patrick Show as well. I love listening to sports talk radio, but when it's a commercial break, I always flip on an audiobook. And this allows me to then supplement that time or to fill that time that I would just waste with something that's actually valuable. Now, the books that I'm listening to at night, they're not just like leadership books or books that are about personal growth or development or something like that. A lot of them are history books, and that's a topic that I love. It's something that helps me to unwind and takes my mind off of the day, but it's also something I can learn from. One of the things I'm doing all the time is I'm speaking to people, and as I learn lessons from history, it gives me content and history lessons from the past that I can draw on and lean into as I prepare content. So it's kind of a win-win. It's something I enjoy, but I'm still being able to learn. One of the things I just want to do is I want to continue to learn. If you're going to lead yourself well, you've got to be committed to learning, and not just within your industry, but learning other things as well. I think that stretches us and it grows us. The second question I would ask you is, are you committed to taking care of your physical body? Are you committed to taking care of your physical body. I have a natural bend towards wanting to be physically active. I was a physical education major. I love sports. I'm wired to enjoy those type of things. So for me, being regimented or disciplined in terms of being physically active is something that comes naturally to me. That might not come as natural to you, and that's okay. Something that does not come natural to me is eating well. If you looked at my diet, my diet is modeled after an 18-year-old who just got out on their own on a college campus and has free reign in a dining hall. All that to say, my diet is not great. I'm trying to make small changes right now to eat better so that my body is better taken care of physically, because I know for the next 30 years, it's like, do I want to track and have that same diet for the next 30 years? That's not going to be something that's good for me. So I've done two small things that have really helped me in that avenue. I've started writing down what I eat. I'm not perfect at writing down everything I eat every day, but I try and be more cognizant of writing down and actually having a visual of what I am eating. And that has been very revealing to me. And how I've tried to combat that and improve my diet is a simple change of, I want to make sure I'm consuming fruits and vegetables every single day. Even if it's just one serving of fruit and vegetables, I want to have both of those things every single day. So the question I would ask you is, what do you want to grow in terms of your physical health? There's power in writing down what you want to grow in, and then there's also power in tracking that. But as you take care of your physical body, we probably don't talk about this enough in terms of leadership, but as you take care of your physical body, I believe that others respect that and they see that discipline that you have. But also on top of that too, you're going to have more energy. You're going to grow your influence because you're able to serve well to the people who are around you, because physically your body is allowing you to do that. And so if you have a healthy physical body, that's a blessing, and take advantage of that and steward what God has given you well with your physical health. The third thing I want to ask you is, are you investing in your family? Are you investing in your family? If you're going to lead yourself well, you have to lead at home first. You can't lead any other place if you aren't leading well at home first. I'll give you this example of how I failed in this. Whenever I first got married, the first year or two of my marriage, I would say that I was trying to lead really well within coaching, within teaching, within ministry. And I thought in my mind, I'm leading well in all these areas, so I'm leading well at home. But actually, I lacked a lot of intentionality with my wife. I lacked a lot of relationship and emotional intelligence within our own relationship. And so because what I noticed is that since I wasn't leading well at home, I actually wasn't leading well anywhere else, because the poor relational investment that I was making, it trickled into my leadership in every other area. It's a myth. If you think you're going to not lead well at home and invest in your family, your friends, your close relationships, if you aren't leading well there, you're not going to lead other people well. It might take a while for it to appear, but eventually that is going to come to the surface, just like it did for me. So are you investing in your family? If you're leading yourself well, you're going to have a high investment in your family. You're going to have a high level of relational building within your family. And I would just challenge you. I even think about this in terms of my own parents. My parents, I'm lucky that they are still alive and I have a relationship with them. And my wife's parents, my in-laws, I want to take advantage of those relationships, invest in them and learn from them, and also give back to them because they've given so much to me. And I believe in our individualistic society, especially in the United States, we sometimes miss that important principle of giving back to and honoring and respecting our families. If we're going to lead well, it starts by leading well at home. So are you committed to learning? Are you committed to taking care of your physical body? And are you committed to investing in your family? Okay, let's shift gears. Let's talk about the headwind versus tailwind principles. So what do I mean by that? As a leader, you all know this. There's going to be time where you are facing headwind. Everything is difficult. Sometimes this can feel like the norm. And then there's going to be times where you have tailwind. There is speed and momentum behind you. Regardless of who you are, whatever organization you're in, there's going to be times where you're facing headwind And there's going to be times where you are facing or where you are having the benefit of a tailwind. Now, it's natural that all of us would gravitate towards we'd rather have the tailwind and not want the headwind. But what I want to talk about is that there's actually a lot of value in having those seasons of headwind as well. So what are the challenges that come along with facing a headwind? Well, things are moving a little slower than you'd like them to. I'm someone that I like to see things move with a pace and a purpose. I love seeing the ball moving forward. But the reality is there are times where that just doesn't happen. Things are moving slower than we would like them to. Sales aren't coming in as fast. We aren't seeing people mobilize in the way that we want to. We're seeing a drop in performance maybe, but it feels like we're working so hard that this is something that happens from time to time. Things are moving slower than you want to. And sometimes you are experiencing resistance. As a leader, wouldn't it be nice if everyone just did what you thought they should do? But that's not leadership. Leadership, if someone's moving a direction on their own, that's not actually leadership. When you're moving people in a direction that they wouldn't go on their own, that's when leadership is truly evident. And sometimes people or situations, circumstances can cause resistance, and it slows down what's going on. When we are just experiencing resistance in areas, this headwind can actually slow us down as we experience resistance. But what are the benefits of this? Okay, that's the challenge. I probably over-explain that anyways. If you know what it feels like when things are just difficult, but what are actually the advantages of a season like this? Well, when things are slowed down, you're actually sometimes able to focus on inefficiencies that are taking place. Because if you think of this in terms of flying a plane and you're experiencing a headwind, you're going to be looking at how the plane is performing. You're going to be looking at all of the other functions that are going on. You're going to be looking at ways, man, how do we trim costs? How do we reserve fuel here? You're going to be paying attention to the inefficiencies that can take place. And then when you're having the tailwind later on, is it actually makes you stronger because you've identified inefficiencies with what it is that you're already doing. So this is a great advantage you have in the season of headwind because it forces us to look at, man, what is going on that I can make better right now? Where are we inefficient? Where are we, where can we improve our performance? The second thing is it forces you to take a closer look at your strategy. Maybe you're experiencing this headwind because you're not moving quite in the right direction. And when things slow down a little bit, it can actually give you an opportunity to look and say, hey, do we need to make a pivot in our strategy? Do we need to make a change in what's going on? Maybe the industry is changing. Maybe technology has shifted the way that things are happening. Is your strategy still on point? And a headwind can provide you an opportunity to see this. I think of one of the headwinds that faced the church back in 2020, and as it did many organizations, was the COVID-19 pandemic. And what I saw, some leaders in especially the vocational ministry world, is they kind of just threw their arms up and they're frustrated. They're mad that people couldn't gather, and they just sat in and sulked in that it was a headwind and it was hard. But what I saw really good organizations do is they put the pedal to the metal, right? They leaned in and said, okay, let's just full steam ahead. We don't exactly know what we're doing, but let's just keep working and figuring this out. And the organization that I'm a part of here at High Street, it actually helped us having that headwind because it made some better systems for us in a lot of different areas and allowed us to clean up and to smooth up some of the things that we were doing anyways. And it really taught us the value of people, how much we loved to gather with people and how much we missed that. And I think it gave us a thankfulness and appreciation for that. Without the headwind, we might not have seen that. So what do you do then when you have the tailwind? Those great seasons where things are going well, you've got momentum. What are the benefits of this? The benefits of a tailwind are obviously momentum is on your side. And when you have momentum, you got to capitalize on it. You're not always going to have momentum, but when you do have momentum, you have to capitalize on it. So if your business, your organization, your sphere of influence, if you have momentum, you're able to sometimes do things in a season of momentum that you'd never be able to do at another time. So take advantage of that momentum. And as you develop momentum, sometimes you can continue to add to that, and momentum, it's just compounding, and you're able able to take your business, your organization, your leadership to a place that you couldn't do in the midst of a headwind. What are the other benefits of a tailwind? Is you are working less, but performance is increasing. So think about it like this. If a plane has a tailwind, they're actually working less, but performance is increasing. They're going faster, they're consuming less fuel, they're performing better, but they're not having to work as hard. And one of the benefits of this is that you can actually take some time as a leader to grow in other areas, or maybe venture out and see what are the other things we can explore. Because this is operating smoothly over here and has momentum on its own, what are some other things we could explore in this season? Now, with that, in this tailwind season, it can seem like, okay, this is always going to be a good thing, but it can be challenging as well. Think about this startup company that you've heard of that, man, they just blew up with success. Momentum was on their side. Things are rolling in. Sales are coming. Income is increasing, and their notoriety exposure is off the charts. But what happened is they outpaced their actual systems and talent, or their skill, and it ended up blowing up and fading away, and they were just a blip on the radar instead of having sustained success. Because sometimes in a tailwind, the danger is that you're not evaluating your systems. You're not able to implement the systems that you need in order to maintain consistent success. In a tailwind, there is danger that you will outpace your systems and your actual skill. So that's something you need to pay attention to. You could scale too fast in a business, and before you know it, then the market shifts, or you lose a big client and you've outpaced what you were actually able to do. The second challenge is that increased complexity as you grow can make it harder to change courses. When you have a tailwind behind you, you know, look at a plane, for example. A tailwind at takeoff or at landing can actually cause some really difficult situations for the pilot. It can cause some challenges in navigating. And so as you think of that in terms of leadership, is it can make it hard to pivot. Small decisions can actually have significantly dangerous results. And with a tailwind, as momentum is behind you and speed is behind you, it can make it harder to navigate at times. So it's just some things you have to pay attention to. Tailwind is great. Momentum is awesome. Wouldn't we love it as leaders if we always had that? But headwind, as challenging as it is, can also be a benefit as well. The key is leveraging each situation regardless of what you are facing, because there's going to be times where, you know this, you're going to have headwind and you're going to have tailwind. You can thrive and you can have success in both seasons, and you can learn from both things. Well, I want to thank you for joining us for this episode of the Better Leader Podcast. We'll catch you next week for episode number 4 of Winning Friends and Influencing People.